Good evening, everyone. I, Maitri Modi, on behalf of Students' Council, extend a warm welcome to all for today's elocution competition. Before we start, I request everyone to kindly cooperate for the college anthem. I request Judge to do the needful. Good evening, everyone. I, Maitri Modi, on behalf of Students' Council, extend a warm welcome to all for today's elocution competition. Before we start, I request everyone to kindly cooperate for the college anthem. I request Judge to do the needful. Good evening, everyone. I, Maitri Modi, on behalf of Students' Council,
आरती दे गीत देश जगा सकूं। दे विधाता ज्ञान वह भारत भविष्य बना सकूं। दे मुझे स्वर भारती। सत्य की ही राह पर चलने की शक्ति दे मुझे। झूठ भ्रष्टाचार से लड़ने की शक्ति दे मुझे। मातु पितु गुरु बड़ों का मैं नाम जग में बढ़ा सकूं। दे विधाता ज्ञान वह भारत भविष्य बना सकूं। दे मुझे स्वर भारती। भावना राष्ट्रीय हो रहे भाईचारे से सभी। दूसरे के दर्द दुख से मुंह नहीं मोड़े कभी। मदद की दे भावना तुझे के दुख को मिटा सकूं। दे विधाता ज्ञान वह भारत भविष्य बना सकूं। दे मुझे स्वर भारती। MKS विद्यालय
Thank you. Now I request Students' Council convener Dr. C.A. Reena Desai to address everyone. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Maitri. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Madam Principal and Students' Council of Nagindas Khanwala College, I extend a warm welcome to our distinguished judge for today's intra-collegiate online elocution competition, Dr. Susan Lobo from Department of English, St. Andrews College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Bandra. It's a pleasure to have such a learned yet humble person like you with us today. Thank you for accepting our invitation for judging this program. We are delighted to have our principal, Dr. Mrs. N.C. Jones, with us to inaugurate our first virtual competition. Madam is always concerned about all-round development of our students and has a dream of molding Khanwalites by providing them a 360-degree platform to prepare them in such a way that when they step out of the institute, they carry a skill set which makes them stand shoulder to shoulder among the best all around the globe. The day inculcates the value and the kind of self-confidence with which they emerge winners in life. I thank you for giving the idea of today's program and your wholehearted support as well as presence in the program. I am glad to have Students Council faculty as well as students members to make this program happen today, and live streaming is on YouTube. My dear colleagues who are always active and lively to support each and every event of the college. All our dear participant students who have come forward today to share their views and justify the topics. Students, without your participation and enthusiasm, no program is possible, howsoever efficient the organizers are. It is a pleasure to have all other students, friends who have today to support the contestants. A very hearty welcome. Students of the council are always on their toes and keep themselves updated with a wide variety of trendy programs which can really help the students in personality development and their overall progress. In this phase of social distancing, probably these are some of the most creative ways that all our students who are off campus now. With this thought, the council has curated today's competition. My special compliments to Professor Edwin Matthias, Department of English, an active member of Students' Council, for brainstorming and bringing forth a range of topics which are apt and contemporary. Students, the idea here is not to merely compete and win, rather have a fruitful discussion and exchange views on how to face new challenges that lie ahead. The idea is to develop conscientious and forward-thinking students. The idea is to have well-learned, mentally progressive, and professionally fitter students through the means of this elocution. I would like to end with this quote of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. In a gentle way, you can shake the world. Thank you all and all the best to each and every participant. Over to Maitri.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request our principal, Dr. Mrs. Nancy Jones, to address the gathering and formally inaugurate today's execution competition.
Uh, Good evening, everyone. Today's for today's program, the judge Susan Lobo,
Now I request our principal,
my
Dr. Mrs.
colleagues,
Nancy
Vice
Jones, to
Principal
address the gathering and formally
Sujat
inaugurate
sir,
today's
Mona, and Maushmi, my colleagues Reena, Edwin, Nita, all my student council members, and dear participants. The situation is we are in the digital world. We never thought that we have to have elocution competition through digitally telecasted. But now COVID-19 is teaching us a lot. But these challenges, we are making it as an opportunity. And that's how we are taking it in a very competitive way. We don't want to miss any opportunity given to the students. So Students Council suggested that we should have digitally organizing the elocution competition, and I said yes. it's fine. So we are experiencing that now today. It's a very good platform for the students to showcase their talent. Every student should be given an opportunity for their personality development. The aim of education is the all-round development of the student. So whether we are in COVID situation or whether we are under lockdown, whatever be the situation, whatever students are supposed to get while as a student, they should get the opportunity. So we have decided to go for this virtual platform. Um, I take this opportunity to inaugurate this program, and I wish all my students, all the participants, all the best. And I compliment all the Students' Council members and Reena Desai for arranging this program virtually. And the students are getting the opportunity to participate in this. Take this as a competitive spirit and let the students uh, take the spirit in the participative form and then win the prize. But getting the opportunity, my dear students, that is the most important one, and you are getting it. So once again, let me wish all of you all the best, and my compliments to all of you for taking this decision also to participate in this virtual mode. So my compliments to all of you and wish you all the best. May God bless you. Over to you, Maitri.
Madam, somebody's YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is
or
on.
Somebody's Maitri, you announce somebody they should switch off the YouTube because echo is there.
Anybody who has joined in with YouTube link, please switch off the video. Please turn it off.
Madam, somebody's YouTube. Somebody's Maitri, you announce somebody they should switch off the YouTube because echo is there.
Anybody who has joined in with YouTube link, please switch off the video. Please turn it off.
Hello.
Thank you, Principal Ma'am. I will now request Professor Edwin Matthias from English Department to introduce our judge for today's competition.
Thank you, Maitri. I hope I can be heard right now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear you.
great. Well, it is not just an honor, but it's my privilege to introduce our judge for this evening. As you must have seen in the flyer, Dr. Susan Lobo is an associate professor of English at St. Andrew's College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Bandra. Ma'am is currently on the Board of Studies of the Department of English of our college and has been a member of the University of Mumbai's Syllabus Revision Committee since 2009. But dear students, what you really need to know is that she is a soft-spoken but a much sought-after speaker who has been repeatedly invited to share her expertise in educational institutions across Mumbai. I can tell you that you are going to display your skills in front of a very perceptive and astute judge. Now, why am I saying this? Well, I speak from experience. I speak from the experience of being Dr. Susan Lobo's student when she taught me that any piece of literature, whether spoken or written, is much more than just a central idea. And I also am speaking from the experience of being a board member with MAM, because very often what happens is we consider certain options and then we think, it's not right or it's not worth exploring. And then what happens is during the discussion, Dr. Lobo, she just shares her insights in such a succinct way that she makes you look at things in an entirely new light. So, what better judge than Dr. Susan Lobo? Well, Professor Susan Lobo, I'm really excited to have you with us. Thank you for agreeing to judge our competition. And I hope you have a good time too. Welcome. Over to you, Maitri.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful introduction. Before we start with our virtual competition, I would like to read the rules once. The participants are not allowed to reveal their sections. Disclosure will lead to disqualification. Participants are required to start with their name, POP number, and the topic. The time limit is 4 to 6 minutes. The timer will begin once you start speaking on your topic. A warning bell would be given after 5 minutes. Participants, please pay attention to the sound of the bell. Can we please have the bell played? Thank you. This sound will be played twice. Please don't stop after the first bell. In case the participant exceeds the time limit, negative marking would be applied. The topics for today's elocution competition are challenges of teen life during the lockdown, nepotism in real and real life, social media detox, need of the hour, boycotting Chinese products, pragmatic nationalism. So now we begin with a competition. All the best to all the participants. Coming up first is POP number 1.
Good evening. My name is Krisha Cheda and I am POP number 1. The topic that I've chosen for today is social media detox, need of the hour. What we've stepped into is an absolutely digital world. If we have to look at the physical copies of our books, movies, music, photos, etc., we realize that we've metamorphosed into something completely different. It has thereby introduced us to something we are now familiar with, social media. Whether it is a boon or a bane will always remain an ongoing debate. But what we can't deny that it has become a way of life. And the digital bug has got on to the previous generations as well. Which brings me to say, it isn't just the concern of Gen Z, but the millennials as well. Now that we've established that it is a matter of concern, let us choose to skip the small talk about what and how social media holds leverage onto us to the part where it has caught us by our collars. For starters, our investment in these box shaped devices and applications have restricted our mental capacity to think outside the box. All these reaction buttons with various emoticons have disabled us to actually express our feelings in person. Words, phrases, sentences have now been replaced by mere acronyms. For example, a wholesome laugh has now been sufficed with LOL, or "Hi, how are you? I wish this finds you in best of your health" has now been replaced by mere "What's up?" Basically, it has led to language deterioration. And to top it all, we've managed to create for ourselves a real personality and a real personality. While all the aforementioned occurrences were minor observations, let's get on to the major ones. First one being the cancel culture. For those who are unfamiliar, cancel culture is the newest internet resolution for attaining justice. If a person is accused of being problematic or making unethical remarks, people on the internet slam that person with comments and low-key cyberbully them to deactivate. What they forget to realize that there's an actual person on the other side of the screen. They simply skip the part of educating the person and publicly call them out. This can also be called as immoral internet policing. Next up, we talk about all the stereotypes that internet has created and how it affects us. Social media has created a construct of image based on false standards. It portrays women with hourglass body types and men with perfect set of abs. Many young lives are influenced by that and they step up to look the same. In order to do so, they go through many unhealthy practices causing self-harm. Not only that, but color, gender, or even the number of followers are main headers that people use to judge each other. Next up, we talk about FOMO, or the fear of missing out. Most of the people who use social media are often under the fear that if they don't engage with them, they might miss out on all the fun, or they might not be able to catch up to all the interesting news and gossip. At the end, they are left with nothing but an addiction. It is insane to highlight the number of people who use social media just for the sake of seeking validation. Such people often thrive on the number of likes and comments they get, which in real life is quite petty. Doom scrolling whole day can surround oneself with a lot of negativity. The constant nag of staying updated is so tiresome. Continuous use of our devices reduces our physical activity. Social media, social media, there are a lot of other problems such as depression, anxiety, loneliness, and whatnot. Basically, it takes a toll on our mental health. Haven't I already given you a lot of reasons why social media detox is need of the hour? Social media detox is basically refraining oneself from using social media platforms. It is high time we need to break the social comparison cycle. You don't have to be competitive all the time. So studies have suggested a lot of ways how one can get over the obsession of social media. You can start with reducing your screen time, change your wallpaper, go hang out with your friends, try out new recipes at home, start a new workout routine. Okay, wait. Let us not get carried away with that because the list is never ending. One small step can change your entire life for good. All you need is certain self-thought and determination. You'll also notice how you're getting closer to your family. With this, I, Miss Krisha Chheda, is signing off with my last words. Let us unplug to unwind. Thank you so much for lending me your ears.
Thank you, Krisha. Ma'am, can we go ahead? Coming up next is POP2.
So my name is Kalpak Fadia and I'm POP number 2. Oh, sorry, it was just the notification, the comments, the likes, the shares, etc. Apart from being a cheeky way to introduce you to my topic, it is just leading me to the bigger question of whether social media detox is the need of the hour. So being the person I am, curious and unconventional, I decided to walk into the footsteps of Mr. Edward Christopher Shireen, or as some of might know, Ed Shireen, and tried a little Instagram detox of my own. I stopped using Instagram altogether for a year. And at the beginning, I was bombarded with the questions whether should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? And I just went with my gut and went ahead and I just deleted it altogether. So after a year had passed by, I just realized something, that I didn't really need to check upon what people were having, what people were doing, and really need to keep up with what people were doing in their own secret life. It just took a part of my life out to see what actually other people around me are doing. Well, I think the times that are prevailing now, most of us are channeling ourselves towards social media as a medium of entertainment. Some of us so much that we feel so lonely and alone that we channel ourselves to the social media, which makes us feel that we'll get friends by just scrolling, 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 and scrolling. The number of social media users alone in India was 35.1 crore in the year 2019, which has now increased to the number 37.6 crore. And that, according to the census of 2011, is the cumulative population of Kerala, Maharashtra, UP, and Haryana. That number, 37.6 crore, is set to rise to 44.7 crore in the year 2023. A study has found that the average user will spend 5.4 years of their life on social media, which is second to only watching TV, which is 7.8 years. We see the dark side of social media, yet we still choose to ignore it. And to this, I say, in the vast social media sea, we all wish to be. Check the likes we get, and then over the lack of it, we fret. Is it who we are? Narrowed down to the virtual profiles and trends that seem atrociously bizarre. Will the negative comments make me cry? Be a little kind, I ask of thy. Away to the land of Instagram I fly, and when I'm done giving hearts off, I fly. Fly to the island of tweets, making my way through the vast majority of virtual suites. To the land of Facebook I reach, who tells me to which birthday girl I need to reach. Does this define who we are? Does this define who we shall be? Social media has become an integral part of human life, akin to breathing. Well, this is the bitter truth of the technology driven world. Social media connects people and news, yet disconnects emotion and bonding. The virtual friendships and love have taken over the real thing. I don't even need to start of how bored we all are attending meet after meet after meet over the computer, where we don't even think that someone is there on the other side of the screen. To quote a friend of mine who told me, addictions are never fruitful. I guess the direct way we can approach this is by one, deleting the apps. The other way we could do is remapping our wallpaper to say what now, what for, and what else. These three questions, every time you open your phone, will make you think whether you want to spend your time on social media or do something else. Then the Freedom app helps you to lock your apps for a certain period of time. Putting social media files on another folder away from your reach is just one little extra step that you have to take, and which will help you cut that mindless scrolling. Practicing mindfulness, meditation to handle stress will also help you handle social media. I guess, like every other thing, it just comes down to having one and only one life. And I bet that it's not on that 4.5 screen inch of yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalpak. Coming up next is POP 3.
Good evening to one and all present here. Myself Dhruvi Nayak and my POP number is 3. Nationalism is based on the core understanding that the nation is real and all its people share the same commonality. This can be unreal in a country like India with so much diversity. However, a question which unfolds itself in the backdrop is if India can afford to boycott Chinese goods at this stage, given the market share that Chinese made up goods already hold. What is the amount that China earns from India only in imports? 4.92 lakh crore. And guess how much is India earn from exports? 1.17 lakh crore only. The import percentage shares 13% and the export is only 5%. It is easy to attack the Modi government at this time like this because it cannot be a bellicose with China as it was with Pakistan. Statesmanship involves understanding real politics and being pragmatic. One thing is clear, we have now reached an inflection point with our relationship with China. We need clear alliances to tackle the dragon's overwhelming presence all around us, especially in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. One way to neutralize China is to leverage the growing business interest in India, simultaneously building closer military ties with the US. The dominance of Chinese products in Indian market is due to the price advantage that they offer. For instance, there is a higher demand of Chinese smartphones in Indian market because their cost to performance ratio. If the government decides to raise the import duties on Chinese goods, ultimately it is going to be the Indian consumers who will end up paying high price. Thus, restraining the trade ties with China is easier said than done. But that does not necessarily mean that India would not be able to catch with China or Chinese position in the global trade. Now, let's come to the primary factor why Chinese products are so popular in India. First, because they are sold at a cheaper rate, and second, because India exports 7 times from China than it exports to them. Not only, but India also imports smartphones, laptops, electrical devices, and medical drugs from them. Boycotting these products will only reduce India's GDP at a large extent. The supply chains are interlinked geographically so much that by banning Chinese products, we will break the entire production process. Startup investment 29,000 crores. Television market 12,500 crores. Auto components 11 lakh 20,600 crores. Pharma factors 90,000 crores. Strong arguments and challenges are on their way to explain why the campaign is not going to work if a concrete strategy is not made. The trade war is not only going to decrease the market of the Chinese product in India, but it will hit the economy of India as well. Lingering question, how do we ensure our victory through this campaign? Although there are some reasons and explanation arguments against the idea of boycotting Chinese products, but there must be certain ways through which we all can make it possible. According to Mr. Sonam Wongchuk, in his recent video, he appeals for a systematic and a phased manner of boycotting Chinese products. The systematic of his appeal suggests to boycott using software made by China in a week's time, hardware in a year's time, finished products and non-essential items boycotted in a year's time as well. And slowly and gradually, once we're used to, we can move to boycott essential products and raw materials in coming few years. This strategy is definitely more than a year, but it will give necessary time and scope for local businesses, manufacturing companies to be well prepared for substitutes in near future. In China, the government provides cooperative loans at cheaper rates. The Indian government too can come up with a plan where local companies and businesses are encouraged to manufacture the products that are being imported from China by reduced loan interest rates. The infrastructure and other essential services can also be made easier and faster to enable our company products for a competitive global market. Closing my thoughts by saying, as a real Indian citizen, the enthusiasm we have right now due to the pandemic should remain the same until we throw China out of our markets. We need, if we get back to being the same people who feel, I only used one product, what's the big deal? The big deal, the big deal is in counting the eyes in terms of lakhs. As citizens, our contribution can be in form of getting used to the substitutes, slowly stop using Chinese products for our local businesses, and it is indeed everyone's duty, right? The government's role in this is to provide necessary support, financial and otherwise, robust infrastructure, and constant efforts to making our manufacturing industry compatible to produce cheaper products with no compromise in quality. With mutual efforts and systematic boycott approach, we'll be able to reach the heights we expect. It is going to be a slow process, a slow approach, but in long term, we are going to look back to that approach. So, ending myself by saying, चाइना को जवाब तो सेना से दे चाइना को जवाब सेना तो बुलेट से दे देगी नागरिक वॉलेट से दे देंगे थैंक यू सो मच
Can I start?
Coming up next is POP4.
I would like to start off with a quote. The difference between patriotism and nationalism is that the patriot is proud of his country for what it does, and the nationalist is proud of his country no matter what it does. The first attitude creates a feeling of responsibility, but the second feeling of blind ignorance and which leads to war. Now, good evening to all the present dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Raju Shukla and I'm going to talk about boycotting Chinese products, pragmatic nationalism. Now, this quote is by Sidney J. Harris, who is an American journalist. And this quote is going to really resound with what am I going to say. Is the embargo on Chinese products an appropriate response to the violations committed by the Chinese army on the LOC, that is the line of control? Let me tell you, we are digging our own grave. Why? Because whenever a military invasion occurs, no matter how big or small, you do not resort to measures we are going to harm your own people. Instead, you do it through diplomatic means like diplomatic talks and negotiations. Therefore, my stance on this remains firm that this decision is actually an attack on its own citizens and not the Chinese government. I'm going to not refer to China as China, but the Chinese government, because it is important to know these actions are based from the Chinese government and not the ordinary people who are leading ordinary lives, just like us. If I was present in a physical room, I think I would have sensed some discomfort, people squirming in the seats, some whispering, oh, is she taking the side of China? Oh, is she an anti-national or she does have anti-national sentiments? Absolutely not. Instead, I'm a proud patriot of my own country, but instead, I choose to stand by my people and not against it. Now, this decision that the government has taken has repercussions throughout the lower class of the society, including the marginalized communities. This decision does not affect the elite, the middle class, and the upper middle class. Now, to put in perspective, there's a poor lady coming at the end of the junction. She's begging you to buy her toy from her so she could feed her children at the end of the day. There's a father whose shop is in Borivali station who sells cheap clothes, accessories. He strives daily to earn more and more so he could send his daughter to an esteemed school where she could have a future he never had. What do these anecdotes have in common? They all sell goods that are manufactured in China. Now, to take away these means of resources this major means of income is actually taking away the dreams that these people have. India does not have the capability to be self-reliant. It is a distinct dream. Therefore, we cannot afford to boycott the goods. You do not take away a major source of income when you do not have an infrastructure where even the marginalized communities can access an alternative means of income. This move is not going to hurt the Chinese business at all. As the speaker above me said, we only make up only 3% of the exports. But in India, their imports make up 14%. Actually, this is going to hurt the Indian retailers, poorest retailers. This is going to hurt the Indian producers, manufacturers, because they actually import raw materials from China so that they can make the finished goods. And because the raw material is so cheap, they can make a cheaper product. And this can be marketed towards the lower class, where they can enjoy some bit of luxury, even if the product is made in China. Because for them, it's a matter of survival. And somewhere or the other, they would like to have some luxury. In the end, we must not forget that our country is made up of farmers, clerks, maids, unskilled workers, which is not rightly named because their work is as essential as any CEO or any IT officer or a programmer. Because of them, we do our skilled work very efficiently and smoothly. Therefore, it is very important to cater for their needs. Patriotism is not about hating someone else's country to defend your own. It's about coming to a compromise so that your country does not suffer because of someone else's decision. I would like to end it with a quote of mine. Show your patriotism by standing by your people and not by a political leader or a public official. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajvi. Coming up next is POP 5.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Soundarya Baswaraj, POP 5. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Soundarya Baswaraj, POP 5. A very good evening to respected Principal Madam, Vice Principal, judges, teachers, and my fellow orators. And thank you, volunteers, for organizing this event. The topic that I have chosen to speak about today is social media detox, need of the hour. Now, beginning with the meaning, social media detoxification refers to a voluntary refrain from social media platforms. And it's usually the only option left for a user who is saturated. And when social media starts taking a toll on the mental health of the user. Social media detox is widely done by taking time off from the apps, uninstalling the apps, or deleting or deactivating your account altogether. Now, in my opinion, social media detox is not the need of the hour. And that is because it's a temporary fix to a bigger problem of social media toxicity. And I would like to elaborate on my opinion in two parts: why social media detox is not the need of the hour, and what instead can be done. So, nowadays, the way we communicate has changed, and social media is an integral part of this change. In this time of quarantine and isolation, social media is our only solace when it comes to staying connected with our loved ones. Also, there is this inherent bias towards social media and the digital culture as a whole, with narratives like these phones will rot your brain. However, the actual problem is not social media, but the content that a user consumes on these platforms. These apps and communication technologies have become and have ingrained themselves in the late millennial and Gen Z pop culture. These apps provide a platform for us to flaunt ourselves. Any girl or boy next door could be a social media influencer on Instagram, uh, amateur news reporter on Twitter, comedian or memer on Facebook, writer or poet on Tumblr, and whatever it is that people do on Snapchat. So, what I mean to say is, our socials are a reflection of ourselves, and that is why social media detox has become taking a break from socialization itself. And that brings me to my next point: what instead of social media detox can be done? So, firstly, take a break from socialization. Being constantly active on social media can make a person exhausted. So we can take a break from these performative actions online as well as offline, and spend time with ourselves. Secondly, I can't. Hello.
Yes, go on.
I can't see myself. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Acha, okay, thank you. Yeah. So yeah. Secondly, quit apps that are not meant for you. So currently, quitting an app's content completely is difficult since the internet is filled with screenshots of one site on another. But what I mean is, for example, I personally don't find Twitter very productive. However, there are Instagram accounts that curate the best tweets, and engaging with this content is a much better experience for me. Thirdly, find apps that are meant for you. For example, I found this app called Litzy, which is kind of an Instagram plus Goodreads interface. And the Litins, that is the Litzy community, motivates the reader in me to push my reading goals. So finding such solutions can help a user make the best of their time online. Fourthly, break the validation chain. A lot of people look for gratification and acceptance from other people and measure their self worth in the number of likes their selfie gets. And this affects their self image negatively. So, what we can do is stop being hard on ourselves and stop comparing our entire lives to the highlights of someone else's life. And lastly, and most importantly, detoxify your social media feed. And what I mean by that is block or avoid content that is toxic to you. For example, fake news, fake deep codes that don't actually make any sense, trolls, the cancel culture, etc. Now, some tips that I use to detoxify my social feed and work very well for me are first, train your algorithms about your interests. Engage with content that you find helpful and positive. When you interact with a particular niche of content, the algorithms of the platform work to show you more of it. And I recently read a research article that said that 70% of all the videos watched on YouTube are driven by algorithmic recommendations. And this number is even higher for Instagram's Explore feed. Tip number 2, uh, don't be don't get affected by trolls. Don't get affected by trolls. It's the best practice to not get affected by fake usernames, because the worst part of it is not the hateful or hurtful comments they make, but that you have to read it in your own voice, triggering self-hatred at a micro level. Thirdly, don't be on the trolling end of the toxicity equation. A little kindness goes a long way. So make sure you're not rude with your interactions on the internet. And this is a bit of a cliche, but don't follow the community guidelines. And I would like to conclude by quoting one of my favorite bloggers, Adri Peterson. If you can't say it to their face, don't post it. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Coming up next is POP 6.
A very good evening, everyone. My name is Rituja Rane and my POP number is 6. My topic for today is boycotting Chinese products, a pragmatic nationalism. In the wake of COVID-19, just when we assumed that the national stability and security have hit rock bottom, it is apparent that rock bottom has a basement to it now. 20 Indian Army personnel were martyred at the Galwan Valley standoff, an incident that incited the urge for retaliation in the minds of Indians. Hashtags such as boycott Chinese apps, boycott Chinese products flooded Twitter. The rebuff was prevalent earlier as well. However, it only amplified since the face-off. That brings us to the matter at hand. How will boycotting Chinese products be ideal for a nation like India? How will it fuel nationalism? Well, for starters, on the bright side, it'll help abridge the huge trade deficit that India shares with China. The colossal amount of workforce will finally be put to use, thus resolving the unemployment issue to an extent. It will be a huge step in favor of the Prime Minister's Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan and the Make in India campaign. We, for a change, might get to use some superior quality products as compared to the infamous Chinese quality before. On a more sentimental level, we might also get back at China for tacitly opposing India on multiple international forums, for the territorial conflicts, for the gross human rights violations, for originating a whole pandemic, and finally the border clash. But is the concept of boycotting goods a feasible one at all? Well, in 1930s, China itself tried to boycott Japanese goods as a stand against the Japanese colonization. In 2003, US attempted at boycotting French goods when France refused to send their troops to Iraq post the 9/11 attacks. In 2006, Jamaican decided to boycott the goods from Trinidad and Tobago, whereas Ghanaians attempted to boycott the European goods. The point to be noted here is none of these nations were successful in their attempts at restricting import from one whole nation. The simple reason being, manufacturing processes today are way more complicated and interdependent than they were in the past. China is India's largest trading partner today. India imports 7 times more goods than what it exports to China. We knowingly or unknowingly end up using Chinese products on an everyday basis. They've now become an integral part of our lives. They are both affordable and cheap. Ironically, the merchandise in order to support this initiative that says boycott China on it is also manufactured in China. Well, nevertheless, our government has taken a few initiatives to support this movement, which include banning 59 Chinese apps, putting on hold several infrastructure projects with China, as well as instructing the telecom sector such as MTNL and BSNL to avoid using Chinese components in their products. However, according to me, the products have to be phased out eventually over the next few years. Well, the ideal step we can adopt is the import substitution industrialization method, wherein we create indigenous alternatives in order to reduce our foreign dependency. This, however, won't be an easy one because creating alternatives is accompanied by increased price ranges, by resource reallocation, and perhaps lower varieties of products available. The indigenous companies will have to work multiple times harder in order to compete with their foreign counterparts. Government will have to issue loans at lower rate of interest for the businesses to flourish. In a nutshell, the disengagement phase with China will definitely take a few years to come into play. Finally, the movement is a citizen-centric one. It will only gain momentum if the citizens of India are well aware and resolve to boycott the Chinese products. With only time being the ultimate factor, will we be able to unveil the consequences of it? Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up next is POP 7.
Good evening, respected chairs and my fellow participants. I, Saurabh Bhudoria, would be talking about boycotting Chinese products and pragmatic nationalism. Welcome to ASP News. After the violent India-China face-off in Galwan territory in Ladakh and killing of 20 Indian soldiers, the CAIT, or the Confederation of All India Traders, has called for a boycott of all made in China goods, a movement initiated by Sonam Wangchuk on social media, and since then has been able to collect all protests outside the Chinese embassy in Delhi, throwing Chinese-made electronic items, seen burning of Chinese flags, efficacies with Xi Jinping's pictures on it. To provide with you with better visuals, we will join you live from Delhi. Yes. Is this what boycott China means? Is this how will we achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat? If that is so, you heard me right. I am not an Indian. If you think these are the methods that we should follow to boycott Chinese products, and this is the way that we will move towards a self-reliant India, I'm sorry to break the bubble to you. I, Saurabh Bhudoria, do not agree with you. China and India have a trade deficit of $50 billion, which means that China exports 5 times the amount of good that India exports back to China. And as rightly said by my previous participants, that India only makes 1% of China's imports, and China is India's biggest import partner, and it makes more than 14% of India's import. So am I saying that we cannot lead to an Atmanirbhar Bharat? I'm sorry, I'm not saying that. In 1947, when India attained independence, more than 100 and 1,000 lives were sacrificed, and people had lost hope that they will ever achieve independence. At that time, Subhash Chandra Bose in his famous speech said that तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा. And now Sonam Wangchuk is moving towards his slogan, which says that हम bullet power से नहीं, हम wallet power से हराएंगे चाइना को. And that is what I'm expecting. Sonam Wangchuk and Subhash Chandra Bose both asked for a sacrifice. They asked to make mere sacrifices to all citizens. And these sacrifices, let me give you an example of those sacrifices. For example, if you're going outside to buy Diwali products, Diwali lights for your house, to decorate your house, what I'm asking you to do is to not buy those lights that are made in China. That will only diminish the future of India in further Diwalis. What I'm asking you to do is spend a few bucks extra maybe and buy those lights that are made in India. You can do that, do a small step like that. What I'm asking you to do is to not buy phones that are made by companies that are made in China. Example, Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus. What I'm asking you to do is to buy phones that are made by companies like Samsung, HTC, and Asus. I think that's a small sacrifice we all can make. Now, we all know that there is a need to boycott China. But why is there that a need? And how can we do so? First, I'll answer the question, why is there a need to boycott China? Now, China has become world's second superpower. India got independence in 1947 and China got it in 1949. After that, both the countries have been racing towards reaching the top goal since the last 30 years, and they were both at par since the last 30 years. But after the next 10 years, China became the world's second superpower. So how did it become a superpower? There were 5 strategies that made China a superpower. Number 1, intellectual property theft. Now, what does intellectual property theft mean? When China joined WTO, which is a World Trade Organization, in 2001, it promised to liberalize economy. Now, liberalizing economy means that you not only export your goods, but you also import products and services. But China has nowhere done that in these 20 years. What China has done is that it has banned world's biggest social media companies, which is Facebook, Amazon, Google, and YouTube. It has banned all of these services that have been provided by US. And what China does is instead, if you go around the world, every one product out of the 5 products you will find is a Chinese product. So China does not import goods and only exports. Now, the second strategy that China follows is the dumping strategy. Dump products at a very low price, oversupply them in every market. So what this does is that it takes its hands off towards the local manufacturers are not able to compete with China because it dumps products at a very cheap price, and the people then they create a monopoly, and because of this the local entrepreneurs are not able to suffice. The third strategy that China follows is currency manipulation. China manipulates its currency such that it always keeps the Chinese yen at a very low price compared to the US dollar, so that it gets a price advantage when it supplies goods to other countries. The fourth strategy that China follows is Chinese spy networks. All these Chinese apps that have been banned in this month, TikTok, Baidu Maps, and many other Chinese apps, they infiltrated personal data. That's why these had to be banned. Now, the sixth and the fifth, the most important strategy that China follows is the Chinese debt trap. It gives high loans to countries that cannot afford to repay them back. And then after they're not able to repay them back, they occupy strategic areas. Hambantota in Sri Lanka has been occupied by China. Djibouti in Africa has been occupied by China. So this is why we need to boycott Chinese goods. And now, how is
your time is done. Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Ma'am, can we go ahead? Coming up next is POP 8.
A very good evening to everyone present here. My name is Eliza Meridia and my POP number is 8. The topic that I have chosen is challenges of teen life during the lockdown. The novel coronavirus pandemic has changed the world as we knew it. When the lockdown was first implemented, we didn't expect it to last so long. And the biggest group, which is facing the most problems and is the most vulnerable during this time, are the teenagers. Not because of the virus itself, but due to the issues caused by the lockdown on their mental health. In general, lockdown can cause many issues on behavior, and this is because humans are social creatures. In fact, social isolation is a form of torture, and social distancing goes against the very nature of teenagers. The teenager life is all about breaking away from dependency on parents and building new relationships with friends. It's about asserting your individualism and taking risks. Being forced to stay at home and practice social distancing can really irk a lot of teenagers. What most adults would feel like is they would take the negative aspects of breaking the lockdown rules into consideration, such as the health risks, while teenagers would look at the reward side of it, that is, meeting up with friends. According to a Johns Hopkins University guide, it is said in that research that adolescents' brains perceive social acceptance from peers to be similar to eating ice cream, and social interaction with friends can actually help them cope with stress and deal with all the mental stress and help with development. The pandemic has hindered this. It has hindered a natural process. According to another study, the brain activity of a socially isolated person is similar to that of literal hunger, even a mere 10 hours of no social contact. Let's look at the biggest place of social interaction for teenagers: schools, which are mostly shut. At first, when teenagers found out that the schools were shut, everyone was extremely happy, especially with the fact that they were getting to pass without exams, which is a dream come true for many. But this elation slowly faded away when they realized that they wouldn't be able to see their friends either. Now, online education has taken the place of physical education. So many teenagers during the lectures are actually sleeping or watching Netflix instead. It has become extremely difficult for them to focus on learning during these times. Some of them are turning to social media for social interaction and spending extremely long hours on it, which can be detrimental to their emotional health. On the other hand, some scientists are actually saying that social media is a saving grace for them and is actually helping them to cope with lockdown loneliness. If we look at the older teenagers, that is 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds, some of them have had to take upon the responsibility of working long hours at home to deal with financial loss caused due to the lockdown. Having to deal with work deadlines on top of school assignment deadlines is a disaster for any teenager. And it can actually get worse than this. And that happens when they have to deal with a breakup as well. If you search on Google how to deal with a breakup, most of the search results will tell you to go out and have fun, to hang out with your friends and be social. But how are you supposed to do that in the middle of the lockdown? Instead, they are being overwhelmed by being miserable and an unbearable amount of emotional pain. Post lockdown as well, these effects can still continue. According to researchers in the University of Cambridge, they said that depriving the youth of face to face social interaction can actually lead to mental, behavioral, and cognitive issues later in life. Another research published in The Lancet, which is based on 24 previous studies on the psychological effects of quarantine during disease outbreaks, also shows that the experience can lead to post traumatic stress, depression, anger, confusion, fear, and even substance abuse. The longer that these lockdown restrictions go on, the worse the outcomes are going to be. Now, the question arises that how would teenagers deal with all of this lockdown stress during these times? Well, firstly, teenagers should set up a schedule of what they're going to do in the day. They can even set up an exercise plan which would also help their emotional health as well as physical health. And they can sign up and learn things that they would actually love to do. For example, sign up for art classes, sign up for dance classes, and do things that will actually give you joy. Set up a post lockdown list of all the amazing things you're going to do once these lockdown restrictions are completely lifted. Personally, what has helped me during the lockdown is to spend time with my family by playing Uno games. I hope that this may help you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eliza. Ma'am, can we go ahead? Coming up next is POP number 10.
Can I start?
Yes.
The 9.
Maybe one question. Isn't it number 9?
Yeah, mistake from my end. Coming up next is POP 9.
9.
Good evening to everyone present today. I hope I'm audible. This is Shruti Oja, POP number 9. And today I'll be talking upon boycotting Chinese products, pragmatic nationalism. Pragmatic nationalism is government taking a stand over issues of national interest which are backed by facts and practicality. These decisions can have dramatic consequences over national and international relations, change in balances of power, reducing or increasing tax bases and GDP. As far as trade and its relatives are concerned, pragmatic nationalist view states that FDI and trade should be conducted only if the benefits outweigh the cost. And having said that, the trade relation with China is sure to fall under the scanner. The recent border disputes with China and Ladakh have led to a public outcry demanding the ban of Chinese goods. Innovator Sonam Wangchuk has propagated the boycott made in China movement and has urged people to impose personal economic sanctions against Chinese goods. But how practical is it? Like damaging a television set or destroying 10 mobile phones do not mean that we are able to reject China. India, unless it changes its economic policy in totality, will not be able to reject China. Also, China is not dependent upon India alone. But India seems to be a museum of Chinese clutter. Our imports from China stand at 70.3 billion US dollars, whereas our exports are at meager 16.7 billion US dollars, hence creating a huge trade deficit. According to data sources, China is supposed to be India's largest trading partner. Also, Chinese investments seem to flow into the nerves of Indian startups like Paytm, like BigBasket, like Baiju. Hence, before rejecting any kind of foreign item or investment, we need to think about our foundation. Extend support to the local manufacturers and producers. We need to ponder upon alternatives about our financial might to purchase at higher prices from different countries. We need to think about a mechanism which helps us develop products which are not only compatible but are able to Chinese pricing and policy. Secondly, the rates at which loans are being sanctioned to the Indian companies, the government should lower them down, just like Chinese government has done for its companies. Practices have been announced by Finance Minister in order to support the struggling sectors in economy. Should be made sure that they are actually implemented and are not. The government should also extend its supports to the company by giving them education, training, required infrastructure services so that they are able to compete with Chinese and other foreign companies. Thirdly, the FDI regime should be further liberalized and modernized. India receives only 25% of FDI what China does and only 10% of what US does. So if we are able to attract more FDI,
It will give a necessary nudge that our companies require in order to surge better productivity and efficiency. Lastly, we need to diversify our import basket and look out for other host countries that are able to decreasing the dependency on China. If we are able to follow all the steps collectively, we may go towards self-reliance. Because in times of globalization and being governed by WTO agreement, any systematic effort which creates hindrance in trade of any nations on jingoistic parameters, it will surely backfire in one way or another. We need to follow statesmanship, which involves not only understanding the real politics, but being pragmatic. Because there's a little doubt that our economy is more dependent on China for goods and capital than China is on ours. Hence, responsible and rational government should handle this standoff carefully, because the realities of the ground state that the two biggest economies, India and China, have a trade relation which is so big and so complex to impose any blanket boycott. We need to accept the bitter truth that the border issues in Ladakh will not be resolved by just boycotting Chinese goods. It will just lead to warmongering. And according to me, it will be more practical and more pragmatic if we look towards alternative about becoming more self-reliant rather than just imposing a ban. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. Ma'am, please note she was POP 9. Coming up next is POP 10.
Hello everyone, my name is Elocution and my POP is 10. I am a teenager who is here to speak about the challenges teenagers are facing during the lockdown. This year, we never expected this gonna be happen, but starting of lockdown, we were so good and satisfied. We were so good and satisfied that this gonna be happen. Starting of lockdown, we were so good and satisfied. Because of this, we were so good and satisfied. Why? Because we don't have to get up so early for school and colleges. We can watch TV at any time. We can take as much rest as possible. In short, we got the most wasting of our lives. But as anyone observed the sudden changes in teenagers' routine, which has been given suitable climate change for a problems to all this to all the teenagers. Parents as a pa- Thank you for this session.
Coming up next is POP 11.
Hello and good evening to everyone present here. I am Nishita Thadeshwar and my POP is 11. My topic for today is nepotism in real and real life. I'd start now. So much has been said, revealed, blamed, and advised about the word nepotism in the last month. The word nepotism has been flashed all over social media since the sad demise of a young, talented outsider, as they quote. What is nepotism? It is a favor or favoritism towards one's family, relatives, or their friends done to enter them easily in a field or profession which they are in. For them, it's just a gesture of goodwill, a gesture through which they help one to get in an industry or a profession, but they don't realize how much they harm the field and industry itself. And talking about nepotism, it's not possible that I don't talk about our favorite and world's biggest movie-making industry, Bollywood. Bollywood has nepotism running in its veins, and we all agree to it. No doubt, there has been some phenomenal and finest talents coming out of nepotism products in the Bollywood industry and having a great success. But the problem begins when they try to burn your crops rather than growing their own. People try to make the newcomers fall back rather than having to struggle themselves. The nepotism industry, the Bollywood industry has nepotism a lot more than the other fields, but we cannot disagree that nepotism runs everywhere. We have gazillions of examples of nepotism in our daily life. I'd like to take politics as an example for that. People run country rather than as a family business rather than as a country, and due to which it harms a lot of people who are out there in the streets, stretching themselves, struggling each and every day to have the success, a platform, one audition, one break, one chance, which the nepotism products or the star kids, as we quote them, have easily, and they use them really lightly. And I'd like to say that you and me, we are the people who encourage nepotism the most. We watch the movies of the star kids because the backside and the behind the scenes are more interesting rather than of someone who is really talented. Also, I'd like to say same for the education industry, college festivals, or may it be any other industry, corporate education, corporate industry, any institution which involves power, which involves a position, will involve nepotism. It is us who have to notice it, and we have to stop it then and there. That was my time. Thank you, guys.
Just give me a minute, huh?
Yes, yes.
Okay, you can carry on.
Thank you, Nishita. Coming up next is POP 12. Is POP 12 present? Aman, you are POP 12. Aman, are you there?
Maitri, are you there? Listening? Hello?
Hello?
There are two Amans basically. There is one Aman, POP number 12, and the POP number 13 is one Aman also.
Okay. So I guess POP 12 is not present, so we can move forward to POP 13.
So, are you guys audible and visible enough now?
Yes.
So hey guys, my name is Joshi Aman Shailesh and my POP number is 13. And thank you for watching my YouTube channel, and press the bell icon for never missing an update, and definitely give the thumbs up if you like my video. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag Black Friday. Hashtag Justice for SSR. Well, I guess this sounds familiar to everybody enough in this lockdown, I guess. Am I correct? Well, definitely yes. Well, today's topic is quite evident enough that I'm going to talk about. But before starting anything, I would just like to take a moment to appreciate and to be thankful for the entire team of council members and also our dignitaries present over here for providing us such a wonderful platform to voice our choices and opinions and possibly create a positive change in somebody or the other's life. So, starting with, well, today's topic that I'm going to cover is social media. Well, actually, it's not particularly social media. The topic is far more deeper. As we go on, it's social media detox. Well, before starting this topic, I have jotted down few questions when this topic comes to my mind. So this is gonna be introspective questions. As from my end, I'm gonna ask questions, and so do I'm gonna answer from my side. So the very first question that comes to my mind is, it's a 15-mark question, guys. It's a brief answer. It is exactly your like semester question. Well, what is the advantage of social media? Boom, the most difficult question to answer, isn't it? Well, not really. Well, definitely social media has a lot of advantages. As a creator or as an influencer, they are exposed to so many companies and so many millions of people that are ready to approach them and ready to approach for their talents. And most essentially, I believe that social media has now become a global village where we are just one click away from whatever we want. Whether we want to peep in Bego's life, whether she is now expecting her second child, whether we want to get an information about what is the report of
Sorry, Aman Joshi na kaise problem છે? Aman Joshi તો એક જ છે. There is only.
My second question would be, are there any disadvantages of social media? Well, definitely there are a lot. But guys, once again, it is a 15-mark question. So be aware. Well, the first question goes like this. It's a very simple question, but yet very difficult to understand and absorb. So the very first question would be, are you the person who is comfortable being you? Are you the person who is okay to be just being yourself? Well, speaking on my side, well, my answer is definitely not. My second question for you all is, are you the person who is comfortable in his own skin, in his or her own skin? Well, answer from my side once again would be probably not. My third question would be, is that anything that we see on social media is real or real? Well, my answer for this is also once again no. Well, whatever we see on social media, the perfection, perfect life, perfect relationships, perfect bodies, where we see women and men having absolute physique that are completely very difficult to achieve. But it all seems so real, but absolutely it's not. Well, the base to my every single question to my answer that was no was comparison. The comparison game that we all as a teenager have with ourselves and the social media influencers, or you can say celebrities, or even like our friends in case. Well, we always have that game in our mind that, are we good enough? That are we the people? Are we okay? Are we compatible enough to be in this world, in the world of perfection? Well, my answer is definitely going to be yes. Well, are you fat? Yes. Are you okay to be fat? My answer is yes, it's okay to be fat. Question number 2, is it okay to be skinny? My answer is once again, it's okay to be skinny. Is it okay to have a black color skin, white color, or any color skin? My answer is once again, yes, it's completely fine. Well, it's time for all of us to be a change creator. A change creator in a sense that we need to be highly appreciable to ourselves. It's okay not to be perfect. The perfect concept does not exist in this world. Perfection is just a mindset. Perfection concept just comes when there is a comparison game. And as an individual, I believe that just other than comparison game, we come onto our real lives. We find that we are pretty much evident enough that we are okay. Whatever we have, whatever we have chosen, whether it's a respective field, whether how we look. Well, just concluding by saying is that, do we need a detox? Well, definitely there are easy methods. It's just that you need to keep your phone aside. But my higher concern, and I would really like to conclude my speech, would be, we all as an individual have much more to offer other than our skin colors, other than our body types, and most essentially as a student, we have a lot more offer to our world with respect to our education. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman. Ma'am, please note he was POP 13. Can we go ahead? Coming up next is POP 14.
Am I audible and visible? Just for a check.
Yes.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good evening to one and all. I, Vraj Modi, POP number 14, would like to express my thoughts and enlighten you over the topic social media detox need of an hour. So, how often do you reach for the first thing as your phone in the morning, checking all night social media notifications where eyes yet half closed and your face still yawning? How often, when on a vacation, you are more concerned about a perfect picture for your Instagram tribes instead of enjoying yourself with the unknown surrounding and leaving behind the magnificent travel vibes? Oh, and here it is. You are one more prisoner, one more victim to the list, where everything seems so normal, so actual, one just cannot resist. Well, the reason behind opting for this topic is I believe social media is a mirage, where the content is enough to play with your mind sense, the right enemy in the camouflage. I I'm going to hurt a lot of feelings here with this drop. So the social media influencer thing just got to stop. Where I see a lot of people writing in their bio, I'm an influencer, I'm an influencer. But do you really find influencing people to be empirical? Influencing them to reach a standard of beauty which even for you is naturally unattainable? Is it right to lust for cars and materialistic objects which would never give you the happiness which is true? Or the door to light is here is to run behind a happy life and the best career you want to pursue. So, on a personal note, I just want to tell each and every creative people out there, never let any influencer be the judge of your work. Remember, they are just someone with us, like us, who just have a bit more followers, but you are still a person of great value and never let that down. Okay, so let me drop a fun fact out here. People are making videos on social media detox challenge by using social media, by not using basically social media for a week or maybe a month with their own set of rules and norms, and bringing you to the light the irony of the situation here that they are promoting such videos of social media detox on its social media platforms. Well, I guess I need to bring this hyped criticism a bit low. Why? Because social media is totally a curse. Like, you just need to take care of how much time usage you are pursuing. So social media isn't totally a curse. A limited use of it never makes it worse. Why? Why? It was social media support who helped Nirbhaya win its case. It was social media supports which gave justice to Lakshmi Agarwal's burning face. And now it is the damn social media helping officials to find the minute details in Sushant Singh's death left with no trace. So, how do you do all this? There are many things to see, there are many things to look forward, there are many factors. The basic 5 rules which I personally go through is okay, 1, limit your usage, be a shining sun. 2, stop feeling competitive, there is a career to pursue. 3, reconnect it with the real world, be free. 4, talk to your friends which are family. And 5, redesign your lifestyle, stay happy, stay alive. So lastly, let me conclude this by reciting a very eye-opening and painful verse, and I quote, nowadays it is so cardinal to imposter perfect life on social for your social media presence, but on the other hand, remember one thing, that old lady who fed you since birth is sobbing day and night just for your one appearance. Thank you for your patient listening and have a nice day.
Coming up next is POP 15.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Vishal Kumar Rao, POP 15, and my topic is social media, the need of the hour. So I would start by saying that today's humans don't need terrorists to disrupt peace in the world. Social media is doing very well by itself. The social media is always used to provide motive and make sure that it reach to people and the mental aspect is being controlled. Social media in its inception was harmless fun. Now it has evolved to be part of our daily lives, how we consume our information, how it influences politics to everything. But social media is not a real life. As much influence or as curated and sample what's going around the world. A third of Indians check their phones within 5 minutes of waking up. The urge to check one social media link is because of instant gratification and dopamine production. Dopamine is the same chemical released when you drink alcohol, smoke a cigarette, or take drugs or play gamble. In other words, it's an highly addictive behavior. The desire for it of dopamine is coupled with failure against of instant gratification may prompt use of the social media feeds. One of one two have said that their phones, they almost check their phones middle of the night. Sean Parker was the earliest investor of Facebook, clearly stated in an interview, and I quote that Facebook's earlier mission was to make sure that it consumes as much of your time and attention by exploiting human psychology. Just think about that. These apps and websites have been optimized and iterated over the years by behavior scientists and psychologists who bring the concept from.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Vishak, but it's very difficult to hear you. It's I have to really strain to make out. I'm not getting the thread of what you're saying. So if you could speak a little louder.
Ma'am, should I restart? Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
I think you should. And this volume is better now.
Okay,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah.
Good
Yeah.
evening, everyone.
I think you
Good
should restart. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Vishak Kumar Rao, POP 15, and my topic is social media need of the hour. Social media, since its inception, was harmless fun. Now it has evolved and taken into core part of our daily lives. It's how we consume our information. Politicians use it to influence their motives, and there are many people out there who are mentally can't handle and are driven by by what they see. So people don't need terrorism to disrupt peace in the world. The social media does it very well. But social media is not real life and much influence all over the world. A third of Indian adults check their phones within 5 minutes of waking up. The urge to check one's social media may be linked to both instant gratification and dopamine production. Dopamine is the exact same chemical released when you drink an alcohol, smoke a cigarette, take drugs, or gamble. Otherwise, it's very addictive behavior. The desire for it of dopamine is coupled with with gain of instant gratification and may prompt users to refresh social media feeds. One out of two youngsters have told in research that they phones middle of the night, causing multiple problems. Sean Parker, the earliest investor of Facebook, has clearly stated in one of his interview, and I quote: "Facebook's earliest mission was to find out to consume as much of your time and attention as possible by exploiting the vulnerability of human psychology." Just think about that. These apps and websites have been optimized and iterated over the years by behavior scientists and psychologists who derive this from Las Vegas casinos, which is to make sure that they hook you up to their web applications. They have been constantly changed and updated to make sure that your needs are being fulfilled. The more ads they serve, the more money they make out of. They are making billions of dollars but just by showing ads, and you're just wasting your time. Many people are beginning to discover this. This has been recent trend of people consciously reducing their social media. Some have even deleted their accounts. However, you don't need to go and delete your accounts, but make sure that you avoid social media to its fullest. Because if social media detox, what is social media detox? It's a conscious elimination of social media use and its consumption. Generally, most social media detoxes are for 30 days, 7 days, or even for a year. It may also make sure that it reduces your anxiety. Why take a social media detox? If you feel like social media has taken over your life, if it preoccupies your mind, this is signs for take a break and make break. It gives you a clear chance to clear your mind. We are sucked into this world of pretty filters on models and influencers. A friend's curated version of their life in posts and captions, and news headlines designed to spark an emotional reaction. This is a recipe for disaster. It is unnecessary clutter, international informational junk food, and ultimately it disrupts you. Every time you pull down screen and refresh, hoping for a new like or subscribe from one of your followers, it makes sure if you don't get that, you feel importance. So finally, the social media detox is very necessary, as you can be alone and make sure that what you can think of new ideas and work on it. um, if social media wasn't there, it could be successful, as many authors have clearly stated that they were able to become successful as they were awarded, they were born in the golden age of where there were no social media and phones, as they were able to work on their thoughts and make the fullest use of it. Learning something, you can also make sure that during this duration you can learn new languages, increase your hobby, sharpen your skills, exercise yoga, which keeps you mentally fit. Instead of reading a feed, you can read a book. Instead of taking photos for Instagram, you can take a morning walk. Instead of seeing what so and so tweeted, you can enter into morning meditation and think extensively about it. One thing it's you can make sure after you do a social media detox is you're not a zombies just scrolling and scrolling down and down. If you feel like you'll be out of the loop and you will not be able to know the current events and news, no, if it's that important, your friends and family and colleagues may come and inform you. Most information you consume is not even informative, it's just distracting you. Many people disconnect. My message, I will like to end by saying that disconnect with the fantasy to connect with the reality.
Thank you. The last participant is POP 16.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening to everyone present over here. My name is Manya Thapliyal, and my topic for today is social media detox, need of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, before I begin, I would like to ask all of you a question. How many of us reach out to our phones as the first thing in the morning, and when we don't find it at the desired place, we get frustrated? If your answer to the question is yes, I would like to welcome you to the 21st century. Gone are the days when people knew how to live without social media efficiently and effectively. The first social media networking site was founded in 1997, named as 6 Degrees. It has been 2 decades since then, and social media has become inevitable part of our lives. To be abreast with the evolving era of technology, not just the youngsters, but even adults have become victim of social media. What exactly is social media detox? Some say it is to avoid certain applications for a particular period of time to re energize yourself. This leads us to a question: can you actually avoid social media completely? Let us consider the current scenario. World is going through a pandemic. All of us are confined to four walls of our house. Everything takes place online, whether it is online lectures for students or business meeting. Everything is conducted virtually. To avoid social media at such a point of time would not be a pragmatic approach. Hence, it is very important to find balance while we skim through social media. Certainly, you can avoid some of the applications like WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. These are the few common applications in which we indulge ourselves throughout the day. Some of the facts which prove the high need of social media detox are: Facebook has 1.4 billion active users every day. India has the highest average time spent on social media, which is 17 hours per week. In 1 second, 870 photos are uploaded on Instagram, and in 60 seconds, 49,370. 5 billion videos are being watched every day on YouTube. Need I go on? These facts evidently prove the high need of social media detox. Almost every Indian is a member of one or the other social media networking site. The primary need which social media fulfills is a sense of belongingness and the need of love. There is no denial social media is an effective marketing tool for NGOs, entrepreneurs, organizations. Just with the click of a button, it spreads like a forest fire. Undoubtedly, social media is a game changer with boundless possibilities. Yet, it has some psychological, emotional, mental, and physical impact. Some of them can turn out to be traumatic and fatal at times. Research shows skimming through social media while performing an activity reduces your productivity. All of us have been in the situation where we unconsciously use social media without even realizing it. FOMO.
Ma'am, I think there was some internet issue from Manya's end, so I think she has disconnected from the meeting.
Jimmy, can we call her and find out, please? Once?
Yes, ma'am, I'm calling her.
Yes, at least once you confirm. Then we'll go ahead. I think, ma'am, this was the last participant. So, ma'am, just 2 more minutes. We'll confirm once and then we'll go ahead.
Ma'am, I confirmed with Manya due to some internet issue she had disconnected.
Yes, I'm over here. I'm really sorry my Wi-Fi went off. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Yeah, I start where I stopped. Lost in the world of browsing, no track over the time, missed deadlines leads to anxiety. FOMO, also known as fear of missing out. From Kiki to Momo challenges, shared dependence on social media has claimed a lot of lives. People build their virtual persona through social media, and their happiness is linked to the appreciation by these peers. As a result, they are left with the feeling of helplessness in their real life. No matter how impossible it sounds for many of us, I would like to emphasize on this. Take certain time off of a day or a week, avoiding all the social media platforms just for yourself. After all, responsible use of any discovery is a hallmark of progressive society. I would like to conclude by quoting, in the world of algorithm, followers, and hashtag, know the value of real human connection. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manya. With this, we finish with all our participants. I would like to ask our judge, Dr. Susan Lobo, to share her suggestions and also give her feedback to our participants and also announce the winners of today's competition. Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but I would also like to request the winners to switch on the video when their names are announced and also everyone to react by clapping and congratulating the winners. Over to you.
Right. So at the outset, let me thank Principal Madam Ansi Jose for inviting me to judge this competition, to the convener, to my former student and now professor in the English department, friend Neeta Dhote, the organizers, the Students' Council team, who seems to have handled everything very efficiently and very smoothly, and more than anything else, the participants. So it is clear to anyone who has listened to all of you that you have done your homework, that you didn't just get up in the morning and say, okay, now let me figure out a few things that I can just spit out, that you had your facts, you had your data, you had your quotations. So for that, for the effort, for the trouble to compose a proper speech, for that, it's full marks to everyone. But I wouldn't be doing my job as a judge if I were not to give you a few hints, maybe a few pointers. Don't take it as a criticism at all. You're students and you're here to learn. So I'd just like to point out a few things. And the thing is that with certain participants, the content was very good, but then the diction did not match the level of the content, or maybe the modulation didn't. Somebody had better modulation, but not the content was not that good. So just like in an exam, if you have 5 questions of 20 marks each, and you do very well in one question but you do very badly in the others, your overall score is going to go down. The secret of success is the law of average. If you get 15, 15, 15, that's better than getting 20 in one and 8 and 10 in the other two. So I'm not going to pick on specific participants, but if you feel that you were doing or not doing these few things, then I'd like you to make a mental note of it, so that the next time you participate in another competition, at least these aspects, you would be taking care of. So first off, let me just say that, first of all, I think you should just keep in mind that this is an elocution competition. It's not a lecture. Sometimes, some of the speeches sounded like you were giving a lecture. That's the kind of tone and attitude that we teachers adopt in class. But you're not giving a lecture, you're making a speech. Neither is this a YouTube or video, So you have to keep that in mind. It's a speech. And the purpose of this is really entertainment. Because like I said, with the lecture, our focus is to give as much information as we can, because you usually have to give an exam after that. But here you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to inundate the audience with so much of facts and information. I'm not saying it needn't have been there, but sometimes I felt it was a bit of an overdose. And after a point, it just became like, what you say, background noise, the statistics, the numbers, So I'm not, no one is here to listen to you because they want to learn more about China or anything of that, or, for that matter. They're here to listen and enjoy, they want to watch you speak. It's about the way that you speak. So content is important, but like I said, don't treat it as a lecture where you have to, like we do that when we have a syllabus to finish, but you don't have that. So keep your content good, solid, but keep it to something that you can comfortably cover within the timeline, the time limit that you have been given, so that you're not, rushing at breakneck speed to get through your, matter. And it's not like an overdose of just numbers and figures and stats and things like that. My second thing where content is concerned is, I think that you should, have a proper structure. That is, you begin at one point and then you reach somewhere. Sometimes it was, people going around in circles. You said something about import export, then you went on to something else, and you came back to import export, but you had already covered that. So there has to be a kind of a progression, that this is where I'm starting and this is where I'm going to go. So that because we cannot see your essay, we're listening to you, but that progression and that structure needs to be clear to us. Otherwise, it sounds like you're just going round and round and round the same thing. So if you have a number of points, the best thing would be to say, I have, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you should do this or you should not do that, and then just focus on that. So be selective about your content, and see that there is a kind of a progression, so that the audience can follow the thread of your argument or your speech. And also, let me tell you that, I think that you should analyze the topics a little more carefully before you start composing your speech. For example, the most popular choice happened to be the social media topic, but although it said social media detox, then there was a hyphen, and then there was a need of the hour with a question mark at the end of it. See, it didn't say so the need of the hour. It said the need of the hour. That question for me made a big difference. Do you really even think it is the need of the hour, or do you think the opposite? So you didn't have to, talk about the fact, this way or that. You could have problematized the question itself and taken a slightly different angle. And this was not, I think, the space again to kind of, lecture people about how to do the detox and how to, that's not what it was about. So just try and see, whenever you get a topic for for a competition or for a debate, the first thing that you should do is question the topic and see how you can kind of take a different take on it, because everybody else who takes the topic will be saying pretty much the same thing. So if you have to stand out, if you have to be unique, then you have to interpret the title itself in a certain way, and that will get the audience's attention. So where it is possible, kind of do that. Now, when it comes to your speech, your way of speaking, some of you tended to what you say, over dramatize the speech. The thing to do is to use your natural speaking voice. Use your natural speaking voice. If your accent is natural, then please go ahead and use your accent. But if you don't have an accent, then don't exaggerate. It sounds a little like school children do, where the teacher makes them stand like this, and you know that they have been taught to say this sentence in this way with that kind of expression. And also, please keep the use of gestures to a minimum. First of all, they're distracting. Second of all, like I said, it's not drama or theater, though it is a performance. But the focus here really is on your words and how you say it, and the vocal expression and the facial expression. The gestures really don't do anything. If anything, they kind of take away from your speech. So let me see now what else I had. Right. One more thing I wanted to say about content is that generally they say that people listen to you at the beginning and at the end. They kind of zone out in between. So of course, when you're speaking for just so little time, nobody's going to really zone out in between. But nevertheless, just try to begin on an interesting note with a kind of a punch, and then try to end with a punch as well. Otherwise, you just kind of taper off because the bell happened to ring or something like that. So you have to plan this. The minute you start talking, you get the attention of your audience by asking them a question or saying something that's really interesting. And then in between, whatever it is that you have to communicate, but try and end with a punch as well. Otherwise, the end of your speech becomes a little lame and tame. Yeah, so you have to learn how to be expressive without using too many gestures. The expression has to come from your voice and from your face. Yeah, and my last thing would be about because this is an elocution competition. See, in a debate, one is not really bothered about diction and modulation and intonation and all those things. In a debate, one is more concerned with the strength of your arguments and how you would present your arguments, how you contest the opponent's arguments. That's really what it's all about, more about content. But in an elocution, it's equally about the way you utter every single syllable and sound. So one of the things that Indians tend to do a lot, and it kind of grates on your nerves a little bit, this over stressing of certain sounds, like for example the talent. So you don't say talent, it's talent. Or real. You don't have to stress so much on the real or the reality. You don't have to do that. It's reality, talent, real. So don't overemphasize. The word is okay, but it's those syllables, it's the sound, sorry, the consonant, the or portray, portray. So it's portray that. So you need to maybe get some kind of guidance from a good English teacher who would tell you about these things, about the stress in words, and about articulation. And this is something that happens all the time, not pronouncing words that begin with v, ver, and uttering those like were, very. He was very smart, whereas it's supposed to be very, very. And when you are an English teacher and when you're judging elocution competitions, you just cannot not, kind of get a little agitated when you hear these kinds of things. It's not acceptable in an elocution competition. Also, certain basic pronunciations, like it's not there. THEIR is not there. It's there. She was their teacher, not she was their teacher. So these are very common mistakes that a lot of Indians make because English is not our first language. But all I'm saying is, when you are participating in a competition, and that too an elocution competition, then you need to get your word stress. You need to get the articulation of every single vowel and consonant absolutely spot on. So I just hope that you will keep these little things in mind, and it will really elevate the overall status of your speech. Maybe my last point of advice would be to watch a lot of the TED Talks, and you see how in a 20-minute slot they manage to make their speech valuable, meaningful, but also interesting to listen to, and analyze how they use their body language, how they use their voice, and how they prepare their speeches, what they those little tips and tricks that they incorporate to make their speech worth listening to. That's what the TED Talk is, an idea worth spreading. So a lot of effort goes into a small little 20-minute lecture, but it's also a lot about the style of the speaker and how they deliver their content. So I'm sure you will learn a lot from watching many of those speakers. They have many varied styles, and yet there is something that you will pick up from each of them if you're watching and listening closely, right? So should I now announce the results?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many? How many prizes do we have? No, I don't want to have. I don't want to have. Maitri, how many prizes do we have?
3 places, ma'am.
Sorry?
3.
3.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just 1 second. In the usual trend is to start with the third prize. So let me just say that, and I'm saying this very honestly, that it was a very close call. It was a very close call. Like I said, the difference was just a little bit of extra marks for the content for one person, a little bit of extra marks for modulation for another person. So that's all it was. So the third place goes to Dhruvi. Dhruvi was POP number 3.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. And the second place goes to Rutuja. Rutuja, and if this was a live audience and I could see you, I would have asked you to guess, but I can't do that here. The first place goes to Eliza. So a big round of applause from my
Thank you,
side
ma'am.
to all the participants, and
Thank you, ma'am.
especially to the winners, right? So Eliza had a very pronounced accent, and I was waiting for it to fall flat somewhere or the other, but it's a natural accent, and you just maintained your natural speaking voice without overdoing anything, one thing or the other. Rutuja and Dhruvi, the content was really good. The Rutuja and Eliza were very close, very close, but had very good content. Yeah. So congratulations to
Thank
all
you,
the
ma'am.
winners. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the feedback and suggestions, and also congratulations to all the winners. Um, Moving forward, I would like to thank our wonderful judge, Dr. Susan Lobo, for being a part of our virtual education competition and also sharing her expertise with us. I thank the NKES management for allowing us to conduct this competition and also thank our principal, Dr. Mrs. Ansi Jose, our vice principals for their constant support. I would also like to thank our Students' Council convener, Dr. C.A. Reena Desai, and other faculty members of Students' Council for their constant support and help. I also thank the faculty members of other sections of Degree College for their help. I especially thank Mrs. Neeta Dote ma'am from English department for her support. Special appreciation to Professor Edwin Matthias for giving the idea and organizing the elocution competition on virtual platform and also for giving the wonderful introduction of the judge. I also thank Mr. Ashish Modi for YouTube live streaming. I thank our organizing committee, Mr. Paras Bitlani, for his assistance, and Mr. Jash Mistri, Mr. Jimit Savani, Ms. Jaini Dodia for their technical support. Last but not least, I thank you to all the students for being so enthusiastic and participating in today's competition. I once again congratulate all the winners. Participants, please note the e-certificates will be sent through mail within 3 days. With this, we come to an end of today's elocution competition. Keep participating in such different other competitions. Thank you all.